The song was characterized by an ex-bandmate of mine as sounding exactly like cocaine.
Welcome to 1001 Album Complaints, the show where lifelong friends, musicians, and guys who show their love through gentle but persistent mockery tell the backstory on the most influential albums of all time, as chronicled in Robert Dimery's book, 1001 Albums You Must Hear Before You Die. Now, if you don't know today's album super well, do not fret. We're going to walk you through the backstory. We're going to play song clips along the way to get you familiar. And in addition to that making of story, we're going to break down some of the songs as only musicians can do to offer you both our praise and our nitpicky complaints. And at the end of all that, we're going to vote on whether this album is really a must listen before you die. Now, if you're a regular listener, thank you and welcome back. And if you happen to be new to the show, let me give you our standard disclaimer. We're musicians ourselves. We understand how difficult it is to make truly great art, and we come from a place of love and respect for the craft. However, we also enjoy nitpicking and complaining, as the title of the show suggests. We are not super fans, but honestly, even if we were super fans, we'd still enjoy laughing about the way our favorite music gets made. So bottom line is, we're not going to be treating this artist or this album with any particular reverence. Instead, we'll be talking some loving smack, the way all musicians do in the van ride to the next gig when the radio plays literally any song ever created. You have been warned. My name's Rob. I'm a guitar player with years of experience playing, writing, and recording music, which means I generally don't know when to shut up. So tonight I'm leaning into it as we discuss a band that our old buddy Robert Christgau of The Village Voice wrote this about. The playing is tight and tough, and it all sounds wonderful on the radio. But Roy Thomas Baker's production adds as much as it distracts. Here's hoping the records get raw. B+ grade. He is talking about the debut record from The Cars. It's self-titled, and to kick things off, let's play a clip of the lead single off this record. It's called Just What we've been listening to this week. We are going to go around the room, introduce our cast of complainers for the evening, including a very special guest, and we're going to do that by way of an extra mean, extra snarky tweet-length review of the album. We like to go extra mean first, and then hopefully we'll roll some of those opinions back over time. But we're going to go first for that snarky tweet to Tom.
Thank you, Rob. The Cars drop an Edsel of an album. I get it, Rick Ocasek. Writing lyrics is hard, but maybe if you focused more time on putting more words in your songs and less time on that rock and roll hair, your best friend's girlfriend might still be yours.
Ooh, savage.
Love the topical automotive reference there.
Yeah. Of course, like 100 years old. Yeah.
Best Edsel reference since Dennis Miller.
Oh, also topical and delicious. Thank you for that. Well, let's send it next to our very special guest who's going to get a proper introduction shortly. Conan, take it away.
The synth pop pioneers mix art rock, rockabilly, and ornate synth lines to make not the worst thing in the world, but some of the best timeless power pop of late 70s and 80s. I'm as surprised as anybody.
Okay. The punk godfather that is Conan Neutron is coming in on this pop record a little positive.
Yeah.
I'm a little surprised there.
It's almost as if it contained multitudes, right?
Yeah, indeed. Wow, we're really throwing out the references today, folks. You could look those up on the old Google-a-phone. We're going to throw it next to Phil.
They say a new car loses 20% of its value when it rolls off the lot. Well, these cars lost all of their value the first time they let the good times roll out of Rick Ocasek's intake manifold.
Nice.
Yeah.
Got him.
We're going to round it out with my tweet here. This is Rob. You're going to see a theme in these tweets. I think it's fairly obvious.
I didn't get this memo, apparently. Yeah.
Fairly obvious choice. Here's mine. Assembly line songs performed with all the joy of convicts banging out license plates in a prison sweatshop. These cars never get it out of park. This album's so overrated.
Oh,
Wow. Okay.
Look, before we get into a little more nuance on those opinions, that's not really what I feel. Spoiler alert. But it's fun to make a little fun. We want to introduce our very special guest, rocker Conan Neutron. Welcome back to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's great to be back. I feel like I've been along the 1001 album complaints journey for a long time now. You know, I guess I could make a outdated car reference. Lincoln Continental. There we go.
That's what we demand on this here podcast.
Apparently,
if I don't hear Stutz Bearcat 3 more times in the next hour, I'm quitting.
Get out of here. You'll never see me again. No, it's great to be here. Enjoy the show. Enjoy seeing how you guys have grown it and grown into your own voices as podcasters. It's legitimately wonderful. And yeah, looking forward to get into it with some discussion on this record. That actually, the more I think about it, the more I realize it's actually, not to tip my hand, kind of an influence on me.
no.
I can see that. So for those who don't know, Conan Neutron, he goes all the way back with us to the Chop days and the Repeat After Me days in San Francisco. We met back then. Conan's always been a hustler, one of the hardest working guys in a touring band, a weekend warrior, but really much, much more than that. He's got a band, Conan Neutron and the Secret Friends. I believe you have a new album out. You're going on tour very shortly. Yep. You're doing so much stuff, Conan, not to mention your podcasting career, Protonic, Reversal. Plug away.
Yeah. Way of the Neutron's a new record. We did a 2-week tour of Japan this year. That was pretty cool.
Sick. Wow.
We did a month and a half of coast to coast U.S. touring, East Coast, Midwest, Mountain West Coast. And then, we have another leg coming up at the time of this podcast release out to Seattle. So that's going to be,
nice.
If you're listening to this when it just comes out, Chicago, Minneapolis, Lincoln, Nebraska, Denver, Salt Lake City, Boise, Eugene, Portland, and then Seattle for Rat City Recon, which is a great all-day activity at a roller rink. Huge show where bands play in the middle.
Nice.
And we played a couple years ago with Big Business, and it was fantastic. It was like a blast and a half. It's so cool. And we have a leg in November where we're doing a rundown to the South and Southwest, Austin, Denton, Wichita, Santa Fe, and Phoenix. And then there's going to be an LA show with Mike Watt in December as well. And
Damn.
Sick.
that's going to close out a very busy year for Conan Neutron, the Secret Friends. It's definitely more than Weekend Warrior stuff for sure. Not to denigrate your characterization, Rob, but something I very much dedicate my life to, and I'm happy to do it. But because of it, there's a lot of time in the van to goof on stuff, even that we love, just like this record.
Indeed.
So I'm looking forward to mixing it up with you guys. As always, I always have a good time in the show. I always get lots of feedback, positive or negative, directly to my DMs. I'm like, mail those guys. Don't mail me.
Oh, they do, Conan. They do. Don't you worry. Don't you worry. Well, okay, I'd love to kick it into how everyone's week went. Phil, you want to take the mic?
Yeah, I mean, it was a surprisingly enjoyable week. I don't know what my expectation coming in was, but it was definitely not what I got. I definitely didn't realize so many hits were packed into one record. Like, I knew all these car songs. I didn't realize it was just going to be like banger after banger like this. Also, I love this mix. This is a great mix. I don't care what the fuck Chris Gow says.
Chris Gow was like off that day. Like,
yeah, totally.
What are you bitching about?
What the fuck's he talking about? Yeah.
What, he wanted to like sound like the Stooges? Like, what are you doing here?
I was also blown away by the fact that I knew 6 out of the 9 tracks just from the radio of this debut album. That itself is nuts.
For sure.
Just take that in the spirit in which it's intended. And I do think I came out of this week feeling like this is an easy band to take for granted, which is not fair.
Like Tom Petty or something, right? Yeah,
a little bit like Tom Petty, yeah. I would just say these guys are so pocket. The harmonies, the rhythms, everything is so tight. You get this impenetrable wall of harmonies that's really cool. I think that's part of what's turning Chris Gow off, actually, in his review. And I was also surprised by the date of the recording. This came out in 1978, but it feels... Man. And I've always thought of them as a purely 80s phenomenon, which they go on to have more hits in the 80s, of course, as we'll see in the backstory. But I think a lot of this is very forward-looking.
Mm-hmm. I think that this is like, if you were to tell me, what's your favorite use of synth? I love this version of synth.
Hell yeah.
I feel like it went off the rails in the 80s where it got real stabby, just piercing, and this is just round and beautiful, and it sits perfectly in the mix. It's a beautifully produced album.
And honestly, Tom, just like there's great hooks that the synth lines are doing that just add to an already interesting song structure.
I totally feel the same way. In fact, I think, Tom, we must have talked about it back in the shop because we had a synth player, our buddy James, who's been a guest on the show. And I used to tell him, listen to the Cars. Like, this is the way you should be doing things. I don't think that ever really worked, frankly. But what they do is they use a ton of restraint generally across the players. As we're going to learn, several of these guys went to Berklee School of Music. They can all shred, but they are doing almost none of that. And the other thing is, I think that because the band is so rhythm over everything, they're able to use, like, especially the guitars tend to be more rhythmic than melodic, although there's some great solos and little fills and stuff in there on the guitar as well. But then the synth is freed up to just play melodies and write melodies and create this like counterbalance that's really, really nice.
Well, and so meat and potatoes, like the structures of, again, they're not going crazy, go nuts with like the guitar rhythms and things along those lines, but it just serves the song so well. And story, I want to get in real quick. This is the first record by the Cars, which is self-titled. They were going to call it the Cars' Greatest Hits.
That is funny.
Which is deeply hilarious considering how many of these actually were hits. But
one of the few albums we ever do that has every single one has a Wikipedia link to the individual song. Right. They're like, this is worthy of its own page.
These songs have been analyzed deeply by people on the internet. Yeah.
Yes. But I'm getting back to kind of what you were talking about with the song structure. I was used to this as a car album. It's just something that I listened to while driving around. It came on the radio or whatever. Sitting down with headphones, I was like, there's so many layers to this. There's so many tiny little things going on that I never appreciated before. And most of them work. Some of them don't work. Like you said, Rob, it's not like I'm a great guitar player, so here's me shredding, and that's what the song's going to be about. The song is about, like, I wrote this tiny little good part. It's not even going to repeat ever. I'm just going to do it 2 or 3 times, and then it never happens again in the song, and it's beautiful, and it's perfect, and it works right for that particular time. And then I wrote a different one for later, and that was also awesome.
Totally. And I said they were easy to take for granted, in part because these songs have permeated American consciousness on the radio, in movies. You know, we'll talk about some of those things. I actually am very curious if our UK listeners, for them to write us and tell us more about how, because it doesn't seem like this band ever really broke in the UK or sold a significant number of records. So I am kind of curious to hear what the audience from the UK has to say.
Yeah, I mean, like, instead, we like Donnie Millstone and the Lads instead. Okay, great.
Indeed.
Sounds good.
Much better version of this power pop. But I'm saying that to say that as Americans, I think we're all facing this, it's kind of hard to hear these songs for the first time again. But I had the same experience you talked about, Tom, of putting headphones on, really diving in and going, damn, this is so metronomically tight and organized and layered. And I have to admit, I had the feeling on my first headphone listen before I did any research on the record. I was like, these harmonies are almost Queen-like. And then come to find out the producer is the guy who produced all the Queen material.
Shocking.
Well, there you go.
But then it's also interesting, too, because Rick Ocasek, the predominant singer of the Cars and frontman, which, by the way, face made for radio. And
good luck finding an interview or any mention of Rick Ocasek.
Oh, is it called? Okay.
Does seem like there's some debate on this. Yeah.
I know someone that recorded with him and they pronounced it that way. So
I heard Colbert call him that to his face. But every single time he says it, he says Ocasek.
Okay.
But anyway, I was going to say, to your point, he is a goofy looking dude, and I dare you to find a mention of him that doesn't say the word lanky or gawky or something.
Man, the man looks like Frankenstein's monster. Let's get real with it.
I was going to say, it looked like they dug up a skeleton, put a wig on it, and fed it cocaine. They were like, all right.
And yet, he is married to a supermodel.
Multiple supermodels.
So that's the power of rock and roll, kids.
Amazing. That is that as a success story? Yeah, if that is a success story for rock and roll, I don't know what is, frankly.
Can I just say, well, the fashion choices in general, all of them rocking these very severe mullets. It's just like, it's a look for sure. And the other thing that I was surprised by that I didn't pick up on from listening to these songs a little more casually on the radio, it's so much more Devo than I had realized.
It's a good way of putting it.
And those guys were and are fans of each other. And I actually have a pretty good Jerry Casale, Ben Orr story that involves a Devo song. There's a line, show me a little bit of what's about to happen, which apparently isn't just apocryphal. It's from when Jerry Casale was in a room with Benjamin Orr, the looker of the group, we might add.
Oh yeah, he's a good looking dude.
Who was with some young ladies, and they were all hanging out together, and Benjamin Orr turns to the ladies and says, why don't you show us a little bit of what's about to happen? About like what they're going to do next, and indicates that they should make out together. And Jerry Casale, like, first of all, hilarious and also in awe. Save that back to use in a Devo song later on, which is some real dirty old man stuff. But also like #goals in its weird way. Because these guys were cool. Even though Rick Ocasek, if you will, face made for radio, like I said, he looked cool. He has the sunglasses. He just looks like, oh, what's this guy? When you think of like new wave bands and like what constituted that style, the Cars are one of the things that comes to mind. And it's not because they like looked badass. They just did their own thing. It was idiosyncratic. It was weird. It was new. It sounded like this. And good on him for that. And again, the only traditionally handsome one of them was Ben Orr. R.I.P.
As we're going to learn in the backstory, they shuffled through many bands, many genres. And by the time they got to this configuration and the Cars, they knew what they wanted. They had honed things down into this tight pop aesthetic. They were seasoned, not just as students of music, but really as guys who had played in bands for a long time. We'll cover some of that in the backstory. I wanted to mention the Devo connection maybe makes some more sense when you think they're both originating from the Midwest. There is like a Midwest aesthetic going on here.
Absolutely. Well, which is funny because they're Boston, right? Aren't they like the big...
Yeah, they're from the Northeast. Yeah.
They moved to Boston to make it, but Rick and Benjamin, who are the core of the band and have been playing together for a long time, and we're going to go over it in the backstory, they met in Cleveland, and they grew up there and first played in bands together there.
Right.
Oh, because Rick Ocasek, he's a Cleveland 8. Like, he's actually not about that.
And also, not enough love is ever given to Elliot Easton, he's very much coming from like a country music and rockabilly background. So if you listen to those guitar leads and just like how they come out of left field, like, whoa, what is that?
The guitar solo on My Best Friend's Girlfriend it's
so good.
It's so good, and it's such a strange flavor to layer over what you've been given up to that point on the song and on the record.
It's like chicken picking.
It's like a Stray Cats solo. Yeah. Totally.
And absent of like the context of the rest of the song, it seems like it's from like a different genre, but it somehow completely works.
Totally works. Works great.
I think they've embedded a lot of interesting rockabilly within that song, even in the basic rhythm guitar part. But I agree, he's a great player. I heard him, he's versatile because I heard him in other tracks sound like he was playing in Steely Dan.
Yeah, I mean, he played with the Creedence Clearwater guys in that regrettable non-John Fogerty iteration.
Oh, Creedence Clearwater revisited?
Revisited, yeah.
Well, that fits with his thing because he went off and did the new Cars with Todd Rundgren as well.
I know.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not to speak ill of the living, but anyway.
You can't win them all, guys. I think it's a good time to go and tell the backstory on this band and on this album. But before we do, we're going to take a quick break. And we are back to tell the story of the Cars. We got to go way back, way back to a young boy named Henry Ford riding in a horse-drawn carriage who would one day become a... No, I'm just kidding. And although this is the Cars' debut album, and they might appear on the surface to be an overnight success, it is simply not the case. So let's start with the main songwriter and the rhythm guitar player, and who most people would consider the frontman of the group, Rick Ocasek. As we mentioned, I've long thought and even said on this podcast, I thought it was Ocasek. He says Ocasek. So I'm going to stick with that as best I can.
You know what, Rob? I know that that's right, but you sound like an asshole.
Yeah, it's like saying Jif. Yeah, that's correct, but you're an asshole for saying that. How dare you? Don't say that to my face.
How about fuck you? Rick Ocasek was born in 1944 in Baltimore, the city that reads.
Bodymore.
Is that their slogan? Really?
It was at a point, yeah, when we were in college.
Wow. They just wanted to let's just spell any bad gossip we're hearing. We're the city that reads, okay?
It rings so false. It really was. It was on bus benches and
you
stuff.
got something to prove? Yeah.
Rick's parents are of Czech descent, and his father worked as a NASA systems analyst. Mm-hmm. And I got to say that right off the bat, one of the things I was surprised by was that the timing, Rick's age. He's born in 44. So by the time the Cars album comes out, it's 1978. He's in his mid-30s.
Yeah, that's crazy, right?
Kind of file that away, right? He is the oldest person in the
I
group.
was going to say there's still hope for us, but no, actually, we're significantly older than that. Okay.
That window is closed.
No, we're well beyond that.
Yeah.
So at some point early in his life, the family's had enough of Baltimore, as we of mid-Atlantic origin like to call it. And when Rick's about 16, they pack up and they move to Cleveland, the big city.
Ooh, that's
exactly.
a lateral move right there.
If you can make it
Baltimore
there,
to Cleveland.
well,
Yeah.
all right, you made it there.
Yeah.
The shining palace on Lake Erie. Rick graduates high school there in 1963, and he bops around a couple local colleges, but doesn't last long, ultimately deciding to drop out and pursue music full time. Now, let's hop on over to Benjamin Orr, the bass player of the Cars and the looker of the group, as we've already said. Canonically. He's born in 1947. He grows up in Ohio, and Rick first meets him back in 1965. He sees a band that Benjamin's playing in called the Grasshoppers. Now, at this point, Benjamin, also known as Benny 11 Letters, because his given last name is a Carpatho-Russian Orchowski, but also because in Ohio they're terrible at everything, including bestowing catchy nicknames.
That doesn't even begin to cross the threshold of what's going to be fun.
You somehow made the name longer.
Yeah,
in
11
syllables.
letters is longer than 11 letters.
Right, yeah. I mean, Benjamin Orr is rad, though. That is a great rock and roll demeanor.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like, does your brother play hockey?
Yeah.
His cousin, you know.
Orchowski with the block. Yeah.
In any case, Benny 11, see, I already made it better, is the singer. He's a singer at that point. He's playing some rhythm guitar. He's occasionally swapping out for the drummer. He's 17. He's already proficient at a bunch of different instruments, right? And the Grasshoppers were a fairly successful local band. They released a couple singles. They were the house band for a popular local TV show called The Big Five, where big national touring acts would come through and sometimes play with them. And Rick Ocasek sees them and files it away, I guess. And then a couple years later, around 1967, the Grasshoppers had broken up because one of the guys got drafted for Vietnam. And Benjamin and Rick reconnect while working for the same booking agent. Now, Benjamin's a little younger, recall, and still in college. Rick has been bouncing around working odd jobs because, again, he didn't finish college. He didn't really go for very long. He's trying to make it as a musician. At this point, he's working as a draftsman for Bell Telephone. Which, none of that seems possible anymore in 2025.
Yeah, what a sentence. Explain that to a Zoomer.
Exactly.
What is it?
So-
that's telephone. What's it?
Right. That sounds it's a country song in the making right there. One night, Benjamin goes to see Rick's band. Rick's band at this point is called ID Nirvana. And he really loves it. And he shows up the next day at Rick's door and he asks if he can join the band. And by way of a loose audition, he plays and sings Yesterday, the Beatles song, to Rick. And so he does join ID Nirvana. And thus begins a musical partnership that's going to last for decades through multiple bands.
They were so close. They were
Yeah, I
so
was just
close on that
thinking-
name.
I was thinking
Drop the extraneous letters,
Yeah,
bro.
it's funny how it really ruins it, you know? Just thought, you know.
Like, exactly. 2 letters. All the difference in the world. Ruin a band name with 2 letters. There you go.
But again, though, they are in it for a long time and they have a fair amount of success. ID Nirvana plays around for a while. They open for Bob Seger when it's still the Bob Seger system. This is a precursor to the Silver Bullet Band. They also open for Alice Cooper, right? This is like Midwest music royalty.
That's like Rosalie era. That's like rockin' Bob Seger.
Oh, hell yeah.
Bob Seger, like, hell yeah. That's awesome.
That early Road Dogg Bob Seger rips, dude. That band was tight. The point is, these guys are already getting lots of experience playing fairly big gigs and writing and arranging songs in a partnership. After ID Nirvana, they form another band together called Leatherwood, and they continue to play in and around Ohio for years.
It's like they're trying to fail.
I didn't mean to scoff, but it just came out naturally. Leatherwood? Come on.
Yeah. You could have named your band Leather or Wood. Either one of them would have been better.
Exactly.
Everything was available back
Yeah,
then.
no band names had been taken at that point. You could have called it literally anything, and you chose Leatherwood, huh? Okay.
But look, ultimately, the Midwest just can't hold them. They can't hold Leatherwood. So they're making some kind of living on music, but they have bigger ambitions. And so they decide to double down on music in a bigger city, and they choose Boston. in part because it's got so many universities. They figured there's going to be lots of gigs to play and lots of college kids to be fans.
Yeah, because they did really good at Ohio State, Leatherwood, right? They're like real big, like Ohio State bands. Like, oh, the college kids, they like us.
Hawkeyes love Leatherwood.
Right, exactly. Canonically.
Right. Totally. Once in Boston, they quickly form yet another group, a trio that is very much inspired by Crosby, Stills, and Nash, and this band is called Milkwood.
Damn.
Really hung up on the word wood, weren't they?
So it's named after a Dylan Thomas poem, which was your first mistake.
Yeah, great. Yeah, good.
This band gets a recording contract and even releases a record on Paramount, which is called How's the Weather?
Come on.
Which might be the worst album title of all time. You took the blandest possible human sentiment, the most meaningless exchange our society has.
It's weird when you're like, yeah, weather report's an improvement on that. That's better.
It really is. Weather reports are very exciting compared to that. By the way, I just pulled up the Wikipedia entry since you mentioned that. It said it failed to chart, is what it said.
It did. It did, but I did listen to it. It's on Spotify.
Is it any good?
You know, it's not bad. It sounds like Crosby, Stills, and Nash, except with these guys singing and not as good.
Okay.
But like you said, the record ultimately fails to chart and they move on to the next project. What's important out of this experience, they learn some key things, particularly with the Milkwood experience. They bust their cherry in the music business. They automatically become savvier about future recording contracts. And number two, they meet a guy who plays sax on the Milkwood record, but who also plays keyboards, and his name is Greg Hawkes, and he'll eventually become the synth player in the Cars. Now, Greg, I should note, is a full 8 years younger than Rick. He is born in 1952 in Maryland. He is a student at Berklee School of Music, a very prestigious music school around Boston, although he does end up dropping out to play to go on tour with a band, which I have heard it said cheekily. None of us went to Berklee, so who am I to talk? That if you graduate Berklee, you've already failed because you're supposed to drop out with a job.
Right.
If you graduate Berklee, you work at Guitar Center. Is that the way it goes?
Something like that. So he was going to Berklee. He's clearly good. He drops out to go on tour, and he's in a band at that point where he's playing keys, clarinet, sax, flute. He's a multi-instrumentalist, right?
Is that with Martin Mull of Fernwood Tonight? And
That is with Martin Mull. Yeah, exactly. Like a comedy music extravaganza.
Yeah.
Once Greg gets back home, the three of them form a band together, and it is called Richard and the Rabbits. They're not getting any better at this.
They might want to seek some outside help next time.
I was going to give him credit for not integrating the word wood into it, but you have Richard, which the diminutive of which is dick. So
They've got three. We got three of the five Cars together now. That band gigs around for a bit and dissolves, but the cavalcade of old band names is not over yet, my friends.
right, this is like Spinal Tap. I love it.
Yeah, exactly. That was the feeling I had because they really have like weaved their way through this musical history that I was completely unaware of. You're seeing them in mop tops on the Ed Sullivan Show back in the 40s.
Exactly. The originals, and they were the new originals.
Hanging around Boston, they meet a guy called Elliot Easton, guitar player, another Berklee school music guy, and together they start yet another band called Cap'n Swing.
Stop.
That's
No.
Captain abbreviated with the apostrophe.
That can't be real.
And this band is influenced by Steely Dan, but also by bands like the Modern Lovers and Velvet Underground.
It's Cap'n, CAP''N, Cap'n.
That's correct.
It's like Captain Crunch.
That's correct. Yes.
It's a harsh joke, bro.
How did they get to the Cars? That's what because the Cars
We're
is a
almost
fantastic
there.
name. How did they get to that name?
We're almost there because we have four of the five members together. So Captain Swing.
Yeah, let's round out this starting lineup.
Cap'n Swing. There he is, everybody. That sounds like a second-tier baseball player nickname.
So you're telling me that David Robinson is the guy who's good at names? He's going to come in and be like, okay, there
That's
we go.
correct.
All right.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, we're going to get there in a second. Captain Swing also does plenty, though. They're around, again, lots of time is passing. They're getting lots of different kinds of experiences in these different arrangements. They record a series of demos. They even get some play on a local rock radio station in Boston, but ultimately the tapes get rejected in part because record execs complain about excess, too much noodling all over the place stylistically, and most importantly, bass player is too jazzy.
Oh,
It's kind of what you might expect from a handful of Berklee grads, honestly.
Yeah, well.
And I should point out, Benjamin Orr is not the bass player. There's another guy who's playing bass. He doesn't figure into the rest of the Cars story. Benjamin Orr is just the singer at that point.
Yeah, Ben Orr, innocent. from jazziness.
Interesting. So that bass player, if he could have just fucking kept it together and done the simple right thing,
Yeah,
he could
wrangle
have
it
had
in,
a 6
Yako.
million sale debut album.
Yeah, if he had played half as many notes, he would have played millions of more dollars.
Yeah, if he was just hung over every practice and phoning it in, it would have actually
If he
been
wasn't
great.
announcing every time he was playing ghost notes, it would have been fine.
Yeah. I feel personally attacked.
So Akasik, who was writing the majority of the tunes at the time, he takes this note from the record execs to heart. And despite being an already successful live act around town, he fires the rhythm section and sets about making the tunes much, much tighter. Now, Orr moves over to bass at this point. Again, he's a multi-instrumentalist. He's been doing almost all the singing at this point. And Okasik's just like, why don't you just move over to bass? Let's do this thing. And then comes the real coup. They recruit a true pro in drummer David Robinson. David Robinson had been a founding member of Boston area heroes, the Modern Lovers, who are most known today for frontman Jonathan Richman, but they're also the band Jerry Harrison was playing keyboards in before joining Talking Heads. Mm-hmm. So he comes into the band, and keep in mind...
Is this before he won Defensive Player of the Year? I'm curious.
Definitely before.
Okay.
He comes in as the guy with the most experience so far. And again, they love the Modern Lovers. They considered that a big influence on their band. But Robinson is this guy who's played internationally, and he gets into the practice room, and his first order of business is the band name. He's like, first off, why did you abbreviate CAP? It's giving breakfast cereal meets pirate slang. He's like, second thing, swing makes it sound like we play music from the 40s. What the fuck is wrong with you?
It's a dumb name. Good on him.
So they make some lists, and on Robinson's list is The Cars, which they choose.
So good. That's such a good band name. Like,
It is. And that might have been the secret sauce. It really might have been it.
But again, like, think about where they've been. They've played in the Midwest with like rockabilly revved up Bob Seger style, big rock and roll. They played Crosby, Stills and Nash acoustic music. They played Steely Dan jazz rock, and it's like they've culminated into this tight version of pop music. So
it's quite the journey.
to hear them tell it and how they chose Cars as a name, they likened it to the car is this American staple. You can roll up your windows, you can listen to music, you can be in your own world. It's a whole universe on wheels, and they like the idea that it was that, and it's almost this like pop art thing in the band's mind. So they feel like it fits.
Well, and I'm curious, is the Modern Lovers record on the 1001 Albums You Must Hear Before You Die? I'm curious about that, because that is such an interesting record, and not just because it launched the solo career of Jonathan Richman, but there's an economy of motion to it that kind of was a proto-punk stripped down version of rock and roll, right?
It is on there. I just checked.
Ah, okay. That's it. I mean, that makes sense. And it makes sense that those guys would be into that, because think about what came after, right? Which is more just like, let's take this down to the barest essence and, strip out the filigree, if you will.
Absolutely. So now we got all 5 cars together. They got a name. The lineup is locked in. And according to Elliot Easton, everything started coming together quickly from there. The songs and the arrangements, they come really easily. There's a clarity of vision of what they all wanted to do, and they all know it. And that brings us to our favorite segment on the show. It's the Cars by the Numbers.
Woo.
Nice.
All right.
Okay, let's kick it off with the number 2. As in 2 lead singers in this band across these hit songs. Now, I did learn that a couple years ago while watching a Midnight Special clip and seeing Rick Ocasek not singing one of the songs I always assumed he sang, but then I promptly forgot it again. And the 2 singers, they sound, who are Rick Ocasek and Benjamin Orr, the old friends, they sound rather similar, I think.
They do.
Even as per, they would even admit that.
But it's Ben Orr on Just What I Needed and Drive.
Yeah, he sings quite a few of their hit songs. Rick Ocasek sings Best Friend's Girl.
Which is a sentiment that I'm sure Rick can identify with. We'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
Orr is the better singer, though, and he is present on more of the hits. And I think they give Ocasek's the writer. He's the sole writer on most of the tracks on this album. And they tend to give him like the weirder, quirkier.
Yeah, I was just about to say quirkier. The quirkier songs are usually Rick. Yes.
Well, I don't know if it's that the quirkier songs, that they give Rick the quirkier songs, or that they become quirkier because of Rick. Because I think Rick's got a lot more attitude in his voice. And I think more character. I'd say Orr has got more precision, maybe. But I think that Rick's got a little bit more of the character to it, you know?
He definitely has a slightly more unique delivery and cadence and,
Yeah,
like marbles
totally.
in his mouth at times in a kind of unique way.
Which unique vocal delivery is not always rewarded.
That is true. It is not always rewarded. I agree.
I personally have shit on it many times on
I've
this
heard,
show.
yeah,
Yes,
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah.
Especially when it's compared with looking like an insect.
Yeah. Look at like Frankenstein's monster versus like a teenage pinup centerfold, right? Yeah, great.
I'm surprised they didn't hate each other. I would have. You know,
Foreshadowing.
you sing better than me. You look better than me, you motherfucker.
Look, Rick Ocasek did just fine.
Yeah,
Let's
that's fair
put
point.
it that way.
Fair
he did
point.
just fine.
We're going to get to that detail shortly. So next number I want to throw out to you is 6, as in 6 months, only 6 months. It took this album to sell its first 1 million copies. It is now certified 6 times platinum. That's 6 million copies sold in the US alone. This was a huge, huge hit.
Can you just imagine? We've talked about this on previous shows, but like imagine every day you're just waking up and they're like, yeah, we sold like another 35,000 albums yesterday.
Yawn,
Fuck,
average
really?
Tuesday. Yeah.
Really? Okay. Oh, we sold 100,000 more out. Jesus Christ. And then all of a sudden,
Well, especially in their case when like they've been sort of just like grinding it for 10, 12 years up to this point, right?
Yeah, for like a long time. Yeah, man.
Yeah, so to have it sort of like explode overnight would be wild.
because also a lot of times they're like touring to support the album while this is happening. So you're like, you know, you get into Denver and you're like, man, we're like number 8 on the charts and we have sold like 500,000 copies. And then 3 weeks later, you're like, damn, we sold 600,000 copies now. Like,
Well, it's the dream of anybody that plays music, really. But like also if you tour where it's like, oh no, this, because when you finish a record, you're always like, hey, we invented this thing called music. It's amazing. Have you heard it? And, like you're so high on your own supply for it because you're so close to it that all you can hear is that like, oh wow, I can't wait to share this with the world. And oftentimes people are like, yeah, that's good. You know, okay.
yeah, you did that. Good for you.
Now I'll never think of it again.
And then like, yeah, I will, and especially this day and age, right? Yeah, it's like I'm on to the next thing already. Wait, hold on, but copy's still available. Copy's still available.
Yeah.
This was a different era, right? There were fewer bands that were doing this kind of thing as well. And again, I knew this and forgot about it. That's like, yeah, they were late 70s.
Yeah.
Because you think of them, it's like, you think of them as being like the 80s band. Oh, this is the one of the quintessential MTV 80s bands. No, dude, this is like late 70s, like straight up.
I think it says something about them being forward looking, which we'll talk more about when we get into the songs. But the next number I want to give you is 0, which is 0 number 1 hits that the Cars have ever had in their
Really?
career.
No shit.
This record's highest charting song, Just What I Needed, which feels like a staple hit of America, never even cracked the top 10.
No
Right?
shit.
Nor did anything else from this record. Now, they eventually had 4 top 10 hits, but never a number 1.
Wow, but it's just like shotgun approach where there's just so many that people just
They've
like
had a lot.
retroactively, they must have had like a bunch of them, right?
Well, there's 9 tracks on this record, and 6 of them are bangers, right? Like,
Yeah.
no questions asked, like killers.
Well, and yeah, maybe it's one of those things where everybody just bought the album instead of buying the single. And they're like, yeah, I just gotta, they're all pretty good. Let's just buy the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean the record ranked like number 4 or something along those lines in Billboard. Like it was.
I think it charted at 18 on the album charts when it came out, and they ultimately had bigger albums later in the 80s. I don't think bigger sellers, but bigger charting, right? Because they were a bigger band at that time. So for a debut record, this was, of course, a huge success. I got another number for you. It is number 30. That is the number of years Rick Ocasek, the gawky scarecrow of a man, was married to supermodel Paulina Porizkova. You see, in the 80s, while making a video for their song Drive, another hit, Timothy Hutton, the director, who's also an actor you'd recognize, cast a Czech-Swedish supermodel named Paulina as the female lead, and Rick and her fell in love. They got married in 1989 and were technically still married when he died in 2019 at the age of 75, though they were somewhere in the process of getting a divorce. That said, it sounds like it was amicable because she was the one caring for him as he was convalescing after a surgery, and then he died.
That's gonna be rough no matter how hot you are.
But yeah, this dude pulls. That's the point of the story.
Yeah. You know, honestly, I looked at a picture of her from like 5 years ago, And she looked better than like a 26-year-old Rick Ocasek does, you know? Yeah.
Stunningly good looking.
Yeah,
It's
still way out of his league.
Yeah, we're not trying to be sexist here. We're just stating the facts. Just calling balls and strikes here.
Just the facts. And to round out this segment, I don't have a cute number for you. I just want to say thank you. The show, 1001 Album Complaints, that is hard work. It's also a lot of fun to do, and we keep doing it because you keep listening, and you keep writing in, you keep getting into the comment threads, you keep telling us new and interesting details about this thing we love called music. You keep telling us we're pronouncing Rick Ocasek's name wrong. But regardless, thank you. Sincerely, thank you. It's really great, and we're happy you're here. Okay, back to the story. So the Cars are able to carry over some tunes from these previous bands. That's certainly a win. Things like Bye Bye Love, as an example, were from some of these previous incarnations. Captain Swing was playing Bye Bye Love, I believe. But even the material they carry over...
They were playing that old Bye Bye Love, Bye Bye Happiness.
You can kind of imagine the arrangement, right?
Yeah, that is kind of a through line between that and, I mean, some of it is like a purposeful reference, it seems to me, to that old style of rock and roll. Whether it's the Everly Brothers or, I don't know who the artist is on the original Let the Good Times Roll, things like that. There is a kind of a 50s element to what they're doing. Anyway, point is, whatever material they have or whatever new they're writing, they're stripping it down to its tightest, poppiest self, right? Because that's the new aesthetic that they're going for. So by February 1977, they're playing around Boston. They're getting a little bit of heat as a live band. And because of the time and because of the venues they're playing, like CBGB's down in New York or other punky clubs in Boston, they occasionally and initially get labeled as punk, which is just an interesting factoid. But like we've said in previous episodes, everything young and uncategorizable at this time was under the punk umbrella, at least briefly. But they would soon be described by a relatively new term called new wave.
Yeah, I was going to say, our listeners have begged us to bring back the segment, Is It Punk? I think this one would be pretty damn short. Is it punk? No, this is not punk. This is not punk at all.
Hell no. A brief foray into the origin of the term new wave, because I looked into it a little bit and I found it interesting. So it is said to have been coined officially by Sire Records exec Seymour Stein in reference to the swath of bands and styles that came after punk music. But this new music, even though it was different in style, it referenced some of punk's style conventions, and in particular, this approach of deconstructing or even destroying traditional forms and approaches. Now, that said, I did find it used a bit earlier, this term new wave, to describe bands like the New York Dolls and Velvet Underground, because honestly, semantically, it's pretty vague. However, the late 70s is where it really took hold in reference to bands with generally quirky approaches and lots of nervous energy, as opposed to the ultra confidence of arena 70s rock at the time. So we're talking bands like Talking Heads, Television, Blondie, and now the Cars. Okay, let's go back over the Cars lineup now that we're heading into the debut album. We have Rick Ocasek on rhythm guitar and as an occasional vocalist. He sings about half the tunes. We have Benjamin Orr on bass and lead vocals on maybe a little more than half the tunes. We have Elliot Easton on lead guitar, Greg Hawkes on keys, and David Robinson on drums.
But Rob, who's in goal?
Hobby Bullet. After getting some live experience as a quintet, they make a deal with a local studio owner to paint his office and install wainscoting in exchange for studio time. And
is this like the third I painted somebody's office and it launched my music career story that we've heard?
What I want you to realize for a moment is that they've been playing in bands for years with a not insignificant amount of success. They still have no money to show for it.
Still painting offices.
They're still painting offices. In that studio, they make some demos, including a demo for the song Just What I Needed, and they begin shopping those around. And that demo version of Just What I Needed gets serious local airplay, especially on WBCN. It was an influential local rock station in Boston, so much so that by the summer of 1977, Just What I Needed is the most requested song on Boston rock radio.
And this is just the demo version, not the version that appears on the album.
Just the demo, not the one we're hearing on the album. You can hear it on Spotify on the deluxe edition, and I will tell you, it sounds lower fidelity, but they made good demos. And that speaks to, I think, why the songs are so tight, because it's very, very, very similar.
They know exactly what they're trying to do. Like, exactly.
They know exactly what they're trying to do. Exactly. Yeah. Yes, literally. So it gets a lot of airplay. They don't even have a record contract yet, but they're now, of course, starting to get some buzz. First up, they signed a management deal with the same guy who helped other Boston success story Geils band. And he helps them get in front of the right people. I'm bringing that up mostly because
This is who they've got in goal. Who do they have in goal?
I mentioned it because I just remember one time we casually talked shit on Jay Geils band. I know nothing about Jay Geils band, but somebody in our audience emailed in staunch defense of them for some reason. I'm sure they're great guys. Anyway, they're a Boston band.
They got a guy called Magic Dick in the band. How could they not be great?
They do have a guy named Magic Dick.
Yeah, he played the
Jesus
harmonica. I'm not kidding. This is not shtick. This is not a joke. That's a real
That
thing.
leaves
Look
his
it up.
dick free, right?
I suppose it does. Sure.
That's great. Have you guys looked at the picture of Magic Dick? look at him. It's fucking amazing. He looks
It's something to behold. Let's
so
put it that
good.
way. Stop the podcast right now and look up Magic Dick. Turn your safe search.
American musician. Oh, my fuck.
It's fucking amazing.
Somewhere in New London, Connecticut, Magic Dick might be listening to this right now.
If you are a musician, this is the picture you fucking dream is going to be on your Wikipedia page.
So good.
The band gets courted by Arista Records. And Arista was kind of the new wave label at the time, right? They had lots of other quote unquote new wave bands on their roster, but they sort of, for that reason, end up going with Elektra, who had comparatively few. They figured they'd stand out better, being a little bit genre different from the other people on the roster, right? At this point, the band started getting pitched some different producers. Tony Visconti, who worked with Bowie as both a musician and a producer, for instance, was in the mix.
Also, former guest of Protonic Reversal. Tony.
Hell yeah.
So dope. That is actually your best get, in my opinion.
That's a good one.
Conan. Good job on that. Go look that up, audience, on Protonic Reversal and listen to Conan talk to the man, the myth, the legend, Tony Visconti. But in the end, they were really impressed with a guy called Roy Thomas Baker, who came to see them at a high school in Massachusetts during a blizzard. Rick said he was one of 12 people at the show, and they thought he was funny. But perhaps more importantly, he had produced all major Queen recordings like Bohemian Rhapsody, but also, and importantly, Freeze All Right Now.
I mean, that's
Oh,
This was a hit.
No, yeah, was it?
and it's a hit kind of in the same vein maybe of the car. Like they're not light years apart.
No, they're not light years apart. Neither is Queen, honestly. And I think there was a little bit of a push to become America's Queen from some people. I think the Cars themselves might have resisted it. In any case, I think the other part of Roy Thomas Baker's pitch was that he wanted to take the band to England, and they had never been there. So they go there and they record at Air Studios, which we actually mentioned briefly on the Wings episode a few weeks ago, a studio started by George Martin.
Correct.
That was based in London and then later in Montserrat in the Caribbean. That's where they record. The recordings take only 12 days of performance.
Wow.
It's pretty impressive.
But at this point, like, I mean, these dudes have been playing together for a while at this point.
It's impressive.
That's basically song a day, right? 9 tracks, 9 days and some overdubs. It's pretty impressive.
It's extremely impressive given what's on the tape, right? Sometimes we get something raw, something that sounds like a live band, and it's great for that reason, and it makes a lot of sense. They went in there and banged it out. But on this album, there is a lot of layering and a lot of production decisions and a lot of little arrangement quirks. So I think it's expected in the sense that, yes, they have so much experience. They really have the power of experience showing here. They've been playing together for a while. At least Rick and Benjamin have been playing together for like a decade. They'd been through a handful of different songwriting and recording and performing processes as well. They really honed their skills. And like I said, they made good demos that really reflected exactly what they wanted to go do.
Yeah, well, the other thing is that if you have that little time in the studio, you're not coming up with those little parts on the fly. Like you have that already written and you're like, okay, right here, third verse, 2 minutes, 40 seconds in, I got to go be-do-ee-do-ee-do-ee-do. And I'm not going to do that ever again. Let me do that right now. Like that's the kind of stuff that is not only is it impressive to just write all that stuff, but just to even like know and remember this is where I have to do this. They probably had some. Rob, you come in with a lot of notes into the studio, and I always think that.
No,
that's
it's
like,
true.
oh, yeah.
And this is the power of not only experience, but demoing as a process, right? At some point, all those little decisions need to get made. All those little parts need to get written. And of course, some bands are able to work that out over years of live playing. This band had some of that time to work out those arrangements. But I think really what it was they put there are certain studio level decisions that can either be done at the quote-unquote real studio, right, and take up extra time, or they can be done in a demo phase, and then you can just bang them out easily. So, and to support that theory, I should say that Roy Thomas Baker even said that the band had the arrangements down when they got in. They had a vision, right? Some people at the time, including maybe Robert Christgau, complained that the Queen producer neutered them, but the band always denied that, right? And Roy, the producer, backed them up. We have a producer not wanting to take full artistic credit for hits. That should tell you something. So the Cars' self-titled debut was released on Elektra Records June 6th, 1978. As we mentioned, it sells fast, getting to 1 million within 6 months, ends up going 6 times platinum in the US. It peaked at only 18 on the album charts, which is good. No, you know what? That's good. I'm going to just say that's good.
Yeah, dude, I would murder a small child for that. Yeah.
The lead single, Just What I Needed, peaked at 27, having been released a couple weeks before the album. They subsequently released Best Friend's Girl and Let the Good Times Roll as the second and third singles. And as we're rounding out the story, just a couple more details about where the Cars went from here. But first, I want to talk about the cover. The band absolutely hated the album cover. They thought it was way too cheesy. And actually, drummer David Robinson had designed what they all wanted and submitted to the label, which was a black and white photo collage kind of sleeve, and spent like a total of $80 on it. And then instead, the label went and spent some amount of thousands of dollars on what we get here. But record comes out. It gets well reviewed. Rolling Stone is very positive, calls it easy and eccentric at the same time, and says every song is a potential hit. They were even named the best new artist by Reader's Poll in Rolling Stone later that year. Now, of course, this has a legacy. It's on the Rolling Stone Top 500 Albums of All Time. It's here on the 1001 list. It's recently been added to the National Recording Registry by the U.S. government for being culturally and artistically significant. The Cars went on to release 5 more albums with several more hit songs through the 80s until one day Benjamin Orr asked Rick if he could write Cars songs with his girlfriend. And Rick was like, no. And the band broke up. No, seriously, though, I think they were probably just a little tired of working together. Their albums had some ups and downs on the way there.
That's the charitable way to put that, sure.
After the debut, they wrote a wave of a few charting hits. They saw a significant downturn in sales on their third album. They then took a short hiatus from each other, only to reunite and create their highest charting album, which is called Heartbeat City, which ended up selling 4 million copies in the US. And I should mention that yielded a video for the single You Might Think, which I bet you all remember because it got near constant airplay on MTV in those early days. It's where Rick Ocasek is flying around like a bumblebee. It also won Best Music Video at the very first MTV Video Music Awards, beating out, wait for it, Thriller.
What a time to be alive, by the way. When it was just like, because have you seen that video? Yeah, it's astounding. And secondly, the song was characterized by an ex-bandmate of mine as sounding exactly like cocaine, which I appreciated.
This is also the record that contained the song Drive, which we've mentioned a couple times, the video with supermodel Paulina Portskova that Rick married and was with for 30 years until he died. Ocasek goes on to be a successful record producer, perhaps most notably producing Weezer's debut record, which we covered last year on the show. It's a multi-platinum success, but he also produced things like the Bad Brains debut record and an album for Guided by Voices. He's had a good career as a producer.
There's an early Weezer documentary that sort of covers their time in LA before they became Weezer and like the recording of the Blue album, early Weezer, right? And there's a really great scene where they're in the studio, they're tracking like Only in Dreams or like Surf Wax, and they're all in the booth like live doing it together, like just doing the bedrock tracks. And Ocasek's got this like notebook and he's like scrolling away in it the whole time. And the camera, like as the song ends, they're like, "What do you think, man?" And he's like, I think you could do a better one. I think you could do a better one. And the camera like comes around to his notebook and it's just this giant black and white dragon he's been drawing.
It's fucking
he has
great.
no notes. There's no notes.
There's no way to top that story. But some friends of mine from San Francisco Right before I met you, Stratford 4, they recorded their second record with Rick Ocasek. They had a great time. They said he was like very present, and they got what they wanted out of it. The record's cool. I wasn't aware of any sketching happening at all.
I was gonna say he gave a bitchin' picture of like a wizard or something like that. Like,
hey man, I'd be happy with my wizard sketch. Like that would be awesome, you know?
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
I did get the impression hearing interviews with Rick Ocasek that he's definitely one of those producers who doesn't feel like he needs to put his stamp on things. He's there to just keep the band doing their thing. He would only work with bands that he thought had a specific interesting thing happening already before he got to them.
So that said, have you heard the Guided by Voices record that he produced?
I've not.
I must, because it's Do the Collapse, right?
Yeah, and it's the one that's got they got those carsy kind of synths going on, and like
It's hard not to have an influence, I guess.
I mean, you got to realize Guided by Voices is like recorded on a boombox previously, so like the fact that the high fidelity is even there, but it's definitely like, oh, who produced this? Oh, Rick Ocasek.
Yeah.
Okay,
Makes sense.
But it was, I mean, I love it. I think that record rules. There's people like, whoa, you can hear everything.
So, on a sadder note, Benjamin Orr, his old partner, died of pancreatic cancer in 2000. Although it's worth noting that Ocasek and Orr had completely reconciled by that point, but they never got the band back together for any kind of official reunion tour, which of course happened 10 years later in 2010. The band made a new album together as the four of them, plus I believe Scott Schreiner from Weezer as the bass player.
I think so. Can we pause this for a second? I actually have a story about Ben Orr dying.
Sure.
That it was October of 2000, and I was at a Shellac show, and Steve Albini actually had a The Cars t-shirt on, and I had heard that morning that Benjamin Orr had died, and I mentioned to Steve Albini that Ben Orr died, which he was shocked by, because you got to remember, this is 2000, right? They entered into
He's not getting
how it works now, right? And it just came up extemporaneously, and I really bummed him out.
Well, all right.
He was pretty bummed. I was like,
He
I'm
seems
sorry.
like such a happy chap otherwise.
Steve Albini, who's caught a lot of flack on this show, by the way. I don't want to take us that far off topic unnecessarily.
I got nothing against him, man. I'm just fucking around.
I felt so bad because it was what this was like. Oh yeah, it's a shame that he passed. He's like, he died today. I'm like, oh, you didn't know?
Yeah.
Okay,
You assume that's why he was wearing the shirt.
Yeah. Like, have a good show.
the only reason I'm interrupting the flow is to bring up that completely unrelated story of me bumming Steve Albini out. But
No, that's great. I like it. It's great. So, yeah, just a couple more story points there, and then we'll get to the song. So, before their official reunion, there was something regrettable called the New Cars, which toured without Rick Ocasek and included Todd Rundgren. And we'd probably rather forget that entirely.
talk about This Is Spinal Tap, by the way. Am I wrong?
So they did make that new record in 2010, including a tribute to Ben Orr on the record, and then they are inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2018. Again, they were playing at that point with Scott Schreiner, the bass player from Weezer, in place of Ben Orr. But sadly, Rick Ocasek died in 2019 at the age of 75, as we mentioned. So the Cars are now officially over. This is their only entry on the list. And just because I dug this up, here's one more tidbit about their legacy. Loyal listeners will recall that we were recently called out for not checking out the relevant set lists from bands other than the one we were covering, and thus not catching that Blue Cheer almost certainly saw The Who cover Summertime Blues at Monterey Pop Festival, even though The Who's version that was released didn't surface until years later. I was called out for not checking The Who's Monterey Pop set list
Get a girlfriend.
on the Blue Cheer episode. Anyway, in relation to that, I happen to see that during Nirvana's final show with Kurt Cobain, they covered Best Friend's Girl. They opened the show with Best Friend's Girl into a Moving in Stereo outro.
That's interesting and surprising.
Is it though?
But also sounds awesome. Yeah.
If you think of it, the economy and motion of those songwriting, right? I mean,
It doesn't seem that far off. I can definitely see like a blown out Nirvana version of some of these songs.
I would have been more shocked at the beginning of the week. And Conan, you're on the show tonight because you mentioned to me one time how much you love the Cars and saw them as a great influence in your music. And I have to admit, at the time you said it to me, that I was a little surprised. But now, having
You're
dug
like, "What?"
deeper, I get it. No, I just wouldn't have assumed because I thought of them as a pop band with many pop hits. I think of you and Steve Albini and Nirvana as being these diehard indie punkists, if you will. So I didn't immediately see the connection. I see it much more now that we've dove in. But I think, and clearly now we've presented ample evidence that support that. But yeah, so now that we've told the story behind the Cars and their debut record, shall we get into some songs?
Let's do it.
Okay,
Do it.
We're going to play a clip of the first song on this debut record. It's called Let the Good Times Roll.
Question's unclear, Rob. What should I do? They don't tell me enough that I should let the good times roll. I was just curious, and the word let appears every 3.3 seconds in this song. It's just let something do something every single time. I know that it is a minor point to the fact that the song is overall really good, but there is a dearth of lyrics here, and they don't mean a goddamn thing. I don't know what
I
it
generally
means.
am very, very positive on this record after this week. I think it's quite good in many, many of the dimensions that I care about, but I would say the complaint would be lyrically. They're pretty bereft of meaning.
Yeah.
I don't think this is the worst offender for the record, even on our list.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say the lyrics are great. Normally, it did not really bump me that much. Didn't really bump me that much here. What I'm struck by is that this is actually a great mission statement for the band. The rhythm guitar approach that the band takes a rhythm over everything approach, I think, to the songwriting. And that allows them to elevate relatively simplistic things to sounding really vibey and great. So I love this. It's not my favorite, but they do sound super tight.
It's very forceful. It's driving.
They almost certainly played to a metronome, right?
Yeah, this is airtight. This feels like 2025 quantized. It clearly isn't, right? But it feels that tight, right?
And that in conjunction with the moodiness and God, the vocal harmonies.
So
are
this
so,
this has
oh,
this
so
the,
good.
you're talking about this being like a mission statement for the band. This track has two things I love. It definitely has this wall of sound production where like people are clearly singing in unison many times, stacking up this crazy good times roll. And it's so cool once it gets there, right? It also, man, this is the gold standard for stereo guitar flanging. Like this is just oof, man. If the listeners want to talk about, hard panning.
I think the comments prove that they don't want us to talk about hard panning. But,
Well, but it's so staccato in a way that people would never describe as staccato, and in a way that works, right? Because wasn't there something when they do these side one, track one kind of lists, right? This always kind of is one of the ones that you'll see of like, wow, yeah, that's a real good opening track.
And it's patient too. Like it doesn't build super fast. Lots of stuff keeps coming in, and it's just additive.
That first harmony sting at 49 seconds, that big stack, it's really cool.
Yeah, but then they kind of pull it back again. They're just like stripped down. Yeah, yeah.
That's that economy of motion, right? It's a move it back down. Let it kind of strut a little.
We've been talking about some of the punkier, indier bands that maybe these guys have influence, but then this song made me think of a more modern touchstone being Spoon.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you kidding me?
Yeah. I do have a nitpicky possible error that I wonder if you guys picked up on. It's at 20 seconds. And I'll just describe it to you before I play it, which is the guitar is doing this very specific boom ba da bam, boom ba da bam, and then he just misses one. It doesn't sound like dead strings.
Really?
But it's not there. Yeah. It's bizarre. It doesn't exactly sound like an error, but it just feels so weird. It's the only one that's missing.
Maybe I was too busy focusing on the happened in the left ear.
Yeah, what is that?
Was that?
Yeah. I mean, it's a synth, right? But yeah, it definitely sounds like somebody's like playing with a McDonald's straw or something.
I had never heard that before. Because again, you don't hear that when you listen to it in like on a stereo, but headphones.
It's also sort of like in its own time. Like it doesn't sync to the guitar in like quite a normal way.
It works. It's like it shouldn't work as a free time thing.
Oh no, it's awesome. Yeah, but it does. No, it adds like some curiosity, some like what the fuck's gonna happen, right?
So this is Rick singing, and we mentioned that there is an old 50s song. Come on, baby, let the good times roll. And like, if you don't look too deeply, I could have almost believe that this was a Devo Satisfaction level rethink of that song. It's not, but just it kind of feels that way.
It features that, what, let them brush your rock and roll hair.
Yes.
I mean, that's like, there's no reason that should kill as hard as it does.
I do like, though, that means that Rick is just like, my hair, fucking rock and roll, baby. Yeah. And look at this. I look like I play hockey for the fucking 76 Bruins.
Awesome. Rules.
All right. Let's keep rolling along here to the next song, the biggest hit, the first single. It's called Just Right. It has very cool use of muted guitar. I guess the bass has a very strong mute on it too. I don't know if Tom, you think he's using a pick or what he's doing there, because it's very plunky, right?
Is
that foam or is that a pick?
He's foam, or maybe he's like laying his palm on the strings right over the bridge and just like kind of doing the palm.
Because that's what
there.
the guitar player is doing. Certainly, he's got his palm on the right at the end of the string there. But I think it's a really smart, simple song, like deceptively complex example of a tune, right? And it's another one of these tunes we've talked about them before, where you don't quite know where you're at rhythmically in the measure until the drop comes, which is a nice bit of subverting expectations.
Well, it has like rockabilly elements. I see how you could maybe say like you see this punk element here with the sort of the stabs against that rockabilly, like, palm mute. And then that snare drum still manages to catch by surprise,
I feel like he's mixing up the accents so much on those drums in a way that just keeps you super
Specifically,
interested.
There's a section, I think it starts at 213, where the snare flips to the 1 and 3 for a few lines.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
And it makes it feel very nervous and jumpy. And it's right when I noticed the lyrics are also saying, when you're standing oh so near, I kind of lose my mind. So it kind of fits the lyrics.
Which has I kind of lose my mind. Yeah.
Right after that, the snare lands back on 2 and 4. So it's just a little section, better songs lyrically, even though it's still pretty simple. These lyrics feel maybe the most memorable of these songs.
This is where I'm like, that synth presentation, chef's kiss. It's
it kills.
Beautiful.
Great.
Yeah.
I mean, it's heavy too. Like, it's heavy in a way that all you need to do is add like an overdrive pedal, and you have Coda Neutron, the Secret Friends, I guess. But it works, right? Because
it does have like the sound quality of the synth has like gravitas.
Yeah,
right?
it has like authority.
Yeah, totally.
I just like how they're willing, especially for a guitar player who clearly can shred and play some great lines, to let a synth player. And also the synth player can shred, right? But to play such a simple melodic line and then do that thing where it's like riff exchange, where the riff starts on the synth, that's the main melodic riff, and then you get the little coda of the riff on the guitar.
That little guy.
Yeah,
love that guy.
The other thing I want to point out, because I was inclined to go learn some of these synth riffs on guitar, it's also kind of crunky and weird. The ba-do-do, ba-da-da-da-ba. That's a chromatic step up from where he started. It's just weird.
Yeah. This is like kind of a perfect pop song to me. It's so memorable and so poppy that, again, I haven't consciously listened to the Cars since I was listening to the radio, which has been a very long time. And the second this song comes on, I'm like, I know every single sound that's happening. This is just
something I have in my notes too. I love the way the guitars are syncopated and hard panned, and then they lock like air fucking tight for the chorus. Yeah. And it just brings it just tightens things up in this way where you're like, damn, this is a solid rock and roll band. But
they really know what they're doing with those two guitars, because then also leading up to that, they diverge farther, where the guy starts playing it like bigger and sloppier leading up to that lock.
And then it dives back in. And lyrically too, by the way, I don't mind you coming here and wasting all my time.
Yeah. It's a good line.
God, that's such a great line. Because when you're standing Oceaneer, I kinda lose my mind. Fantastic. Yeah. Like meeting the moment for culturally, right? Of like, it's like a new wave or sort of like off-putting, kind of like we're not being too sincere. It's so good. And this has got the classic I needed someone to feed, needed someone to bleed thing, which is sort of like, slant rhyming / for the alert listener that listens to lyrics. Some fun stuff there. And it's not like it's some profound message necessarily, but god damn does it do the thing.
I agree. This is an example of a song I've heard a million times, but it is truly great pop. Totally agree. Okay. Let's move on to something
rocks.
that's
Moving
a little bit different. It's called Don't Just Stop.
Right here, let them melt inside of you. Right here, your kiss is totally new. Right here, your hands are soft and creamy. Right here, your mouth is wet and dreamy. But you know, it's just what I like. So do that I like. Don't you stop, don't you stop, don't you stop, don't you stop. If it makes you feel good. Don't you stop, don't you stop, don't you stop, don't you stop.
The title is from the same mind that brought you Cap'n Swing, by the way.
So this is your low
This is
point,
my low
Rob?
point, yeah.
I was a little surprised that you picked this song. First of all, just to be on the playlist at all, and then as your low point, I would have thought "I'm in Touch with Your World." Was
I
the
don't
low
listen.
point.
To be clear, I don't think anything is that bad. I think it's pretty internally consistent. This one gave me. It was like the parts I don't like about Devo turned up to 11. Like someone leaned on the gas of the demented merry-go-round, and the carnival ride is out of control. You know.
I feel like with "I'm in Touch with Your World," it just seemed out of place because you're like fucking pop perfection, pop perfection, pop perfection. I'm in touch with the world.
And
you're like,
goofing
oh,
around
okay.
with synths. Yeah.
yeah.
I did think of that for that reason because you have 3 bangers and legitimate hits
Yeah.
in a row on your debut record, and then you drop way down. How could you not? You have to fall off at some point, right?
Yeah.
Wow, 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 wow,
But I
wow.
can see why I could understand why this would be the low point because this almost seems like you're like you know how to do this well. And you're just not doing it well on this song. Whereas, like, I'm in Touch with the World is like a different thing. It's like they took several steps. To
I think
the
my
left or
problem
something.
with it is that and this is one of the highest compliments I can bestow on a band in my mind, and I give it to these guys, they're patient, right? They let things develop. This just feels everything at once, and that is not, it's to their detriment, I think.
There's an interesting thing that when a band becomes a catalog band, when you go around playing songs from your various records and you choose what to play and what not to play, sometimes you get a hindsight of, oh yeah, I know what we were trying to do there, but that didn't quite do what we wanted to do. Let's just
Let's just accept that it didn't work, and yeah.
it didn't.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
fine. It's doesn't do any harm, but do we really need to be playing it? Nah.
You know, the Tom Petty song Mary Jane's Last Dance is incredibly similar to the Tom Petty song You're So Bad. And I feel like Tom Petty was just like, nah, that's a bigger hit than that. I'm releasing it again.
Yeah.
You know, like,
it's like a more well-written version.
yeah,
of,
like I'm gonna put a cooler guitar riff in there, and I'm gonna hit a chord change in the chorus, and it's gonna be a yeah, exactly.
There's a weed reference.
I do love
It's a
You're
great
So
song.
Bad.
It's a
That's
great song. He's
Yeah.
right. You know, it was a bigger hit than that.
I like both of the tunes, actually, to your point.
But this is a classic example of a band like, all right, well, yeah, that one's fine. Like no one's mad at it. No, it's not like the ill-timed ska number or something where this sticks out like a sore thumb.
no,
like,
it's not that bad. It's not. It's a relatively high low point for sure.
Like if this is your low point, you're doing okay. All right.
Where it falls short is they're great at choruses. And this is just not a good chorus.
Yeah.
Like they just fumbled on the chorus. If they had had a good chorus, they could have saved the song. Just write a better fucking hook. It's just that easy, right? But like,
You've only had 10 years and 17 bands to do it.
This maybe is forward looking in that it kind of sounds like every college band from the early to mid 80s, right? Like there's with a certain level of execution, but obviously lacking just what I needed level songwriting.
Like very impressed with yourself.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
Check it out. It's about not stopping. That's universal.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, the real difference is the songwriting. Like this song just isn't written as well as the rippers at the top of this sidewalk.
It's not bad, but 6 of like some of the best songs of that era. It's like, okay, there's also this one.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
We haven't touched on the lyrics yet, but they're also pretty gross. Right here, your hands are soft and creamy. Right here, your mouth is wet and dreamy. It's creeping me out, man. That plus the cha in your title.
Don't stop.
yeah, I mean, Rob, you didn't throw in the opening line right here. I like to melt inside of you.
It's pretty gross, dude.
It's a fucking
Pretty
gross
gross.
line.
Okay, please do stop.
Stop.
Let's move on to the next track we got here. It's Bye Bye Love.
I can't do this way much longer, expecting to survive. With all those hidden innuendos just waiting to arrive. It's such a wavy night, and you slip into insane. Let's get into rock and roll. I hear what you're playing. It's an orangey sky. Always it's some other guy. It's just a broken lullaby. Bye, bye, love. Bye, bye, love. Bye, bye, love.
So I knew this tune, but I never really knew the name of the tune.
Do you think it was called My Love?
I thought it was My Love, definitely.
Yeah, totally. 100%.
Bye. My love. Yeah.
Oh no, I thought it was about Milo. I thought it was a name.
It's Milo and Otis, the classic children's movie. You don't remember that?
I have to give best song of the record to Just What I Needed, but this was kind of one of my finds for the week. I found this one running through my head quite a bit, maybe because I hadn't heard it as much.
Yeah, I agree with you. I was most impressed with this on a sit-down listen. I was like, man, this is pretty smart. Also, I like how you can tell this is people playing music. I think maybe some of the other poppier tracks, like designed to be hits, like they are a little more like metronomic in a good way, right? They're like airtight pop songs. This sounds just a little more like you can hear, what was it, like Captain
Swing or whatever the fuck. Yeah.
Captain Tickles? Yeah, right. Yeah. You could hear a little Steely Dan, a little like mid-70s here.
No, I like that about it too. Absolutely. The synth player gets to show off his chops, and the guitar player does. It feels like the band gets a little...
And Benjamin Orr gets some. He doesn't get a lot of time to shine on the bass on this album, but he's got some tasty lines on this song.
This is a good tune. Elliot Easton also like delivering on this one, like hardcore, like delivering in that really great way. By the way, my favorite Ben Orr bass song is probably "Moving in Stereo" because that's so relentless. But this is a good. Was not a hit on the same level as some of their bigger hits, but rock solid, like fan favorite, rock solid song.
Yeah, it's a musician's kind of tune. I think you're right that they're exercising a little more of their Steely Dan. This is what gave me the Elliot Easton Steely Dan. His solo on this felt a little Skunk Baxtery, synth player gets his Greg Hawkes gets his Rick Wakeman kind of moment where he's ripping. It's like a reminder that they can rip really hard if they want to.
The restraint is a choice. The economy of motion is a choice, right? And so it means more when they do kind of go hog on it. And it's also not for very long, which I appreciate. It's like, oh, there it is, and you kind of, wow, I'd like to hear more of that. Cool, listen to the song again, jerk.
Well, we've talked about this a lot on other albums where it's just like, just end the song. You have nothing more to give. Why is the song still going on? These songs, there's really not anything where I'm like, oh my God, can you just fucking end this song? God damn.
Yeah,
like
no
fat on this album whatsoever.
And I think they very much set out for that, and there are a lot of cool little rhythmic variations in this song too, including how they end the tune. They're giving, I feel, the musicians what they want. And here's a thought that's occurring to me, because I've been thinking they are forward thinking as a band, in part because they have a synth in a rock band, and in part because they have these really tight pop songs at a time of the 70s rock and roll excess. But maybe it's also about how metronomic they are, is almost presaging drum machine type pop music.
Yeah, like that's the natural direction of things, is to make more art that's made by or with machines. And I don't mean that in a good way or a bad way. I mean like hard drives would have started to become like a thing in a studio around this time, like late 70s, early 80s, just backing up in that way. Like, it sounds stupid, but like they do start to change the way you think over time about how you're going to complete a task. Right.
And that is, I think, often our main, or I'll say it's my main complaint about a lot of the 80s material is drum machines just sound inorganic. And here you have this organic band doing something that's extremely rhythmic and cool and basically having a no flash approach.
Yeah, it's all baked into the material. It's not like there's no Eddie Van Halen, Jimmy Page moments.
Although, I mean, there is some kind of flashy guitar stuff, but it isn't like in this distracting, like.
That's what I'm saying. They clearly could do that, and they're showing you that it's there, right below the surface, lurking. But they're like, we're purposely not doing that. They're all accomplished at their craft.
By My Love to me is like, that's one of the more Devo songs on here. Like the way it all fits together, where it just kind of, it kind of, it's relentless. It unleashes. It like goes back, squeezes back down. Like just from a arrangement perspective, it's the kind of like, oh, you see the common thread between these bands, even though it was deployed completely freaking differently, in a good way. And it's something where it is deceptively, again, another great headphone listen. Right, like wow, there's a lot going on here. Yeah, great.
Yeah. The pre-chorus has like 3 or 4 distinct melodies, kind of just like all swirling around, and you're like, but yet you're like, and here we are, like landing in this chorus wonderfully.
And here we are.
Yeah, exactly. This is great.
And it's bratty, but it works. And
it's a good way to describe it.
And speaking of a good headphone,
right?
This is so cool. Such atmosphere, very ahead of its time. I should mention, to get it out of the way, it's featured in the iconic Fast Times at Ridgemont High scene where Phoebe Cates is coming out of the pool.
You're goddamn right it is.
A lot of people know it from that. They may have rewound that part, watched it a few times.
Can I say, when I have, for whatever reason, whatever exercise stated my musical goals is to have a music placement that is that iconically paired with film. Not necessarily that exact purpose, but because it is so of the moment and of the thing of like, that is the perfect thing that is happening at this moment in time in this movie.
Well, can I play off that for a second? Because I'm, for whatever reason, laugh at me if you will, I didn't recognize it from that sequence. I've seen that movie, but it's not an important movie.
You were watching on mute.
In my life. It's just not. I don't know if it's an age thing or whatever it is. It's just not. So I didn't notice that. I had to read about that. But I will say that the song is just inherently cinematic. Yes. It kind of feels like it could go over almost any film and make it better.
I feel like you could hear an orchestra playing this song. And you're like,
well,
oh, yeah,
got those big
sense.
hits up.
The drum orchestral part.
Bow.
Yeah.
Bow. Yeah, it's totally. Yeah, absolutely.
This is an all-time sinister synth melody getting plucked out over that verse. It almost reminds me a little bit of the Push It melody, the Salt and Pepper song, which is another favorite of mine.
You're right on, man. Absolutely. Yeah.
I didn't think of it until you said sinister, but also for the most part, this record's pretty major key. Like it's all upbeat. Like this is maybe a little down tempo from the other songs, but this is the darkest song by a wide margin.
Well, yeah. So why does it sound so threatening when it's so major key?
Yeah.
Like in a good way. It's so atmospheric.
But I also love how if you ask me, like if you were to be able to pluck what I hear in my head when I think of this song, I think of that melody being played over the end where there's a bunch of stuff playing it. The restraint to just like keep layering little parts on top of it. The first time you hear it, you're like, oh, that's a little underwhelming. Because in your head, you're thinking of like the big end, and then you get to the big end and you're like, yes, that is the fucking payoff. There we go. Like it would have been so tempting to just make it big from moment one, but they don't. They hold back. And then by the time it gets big, you're just like, yes, I've been waiting for this.
It's very patient. Yeah. And it's sort of I can't remember if we've ever talked about Roxy music, which I am kind of mixed on, frankly, but it's definitely got the things that are cool about Roxy music. It's kind of got that. But like their version of it, hey, it makes sense that Phoebe Cates is taking off a bikini top. You know what? It's like, all right, yeah. What else would you do? Sure.
By the way, I feel like this is the tune to cover if you want to be cool.
Oh, dude, yeah. Like, totally. I mean, there's heavy bands, a couple stoner rock bands. I think Fu Manchu covered it. I mean, Nirvana, as you mentioned, because it's so relentless and it kills live with just that rhythm, just a little bit off, where you're like, oh, that hit where I didn't expect it to, and it's so cool, man. And you get that the line, it's such a long line too of the melody that goes over it, and it's like that shouldn't work. There's every reason that shouldn't work, and it does.
Yeah, Life's the same except for my shoes is a pretty lame line, but he kind of brings it back with shaking like tremolo.
Shaking like tremolo.
Yeah, that's a good line.
And then they do the blast off synth sound, right? Like after, like wow.
What's the kind of thing that if you divorce the lyrics from the music, it sounds like idiocy. You're like, that's terrible. And then you like with the music,
Yeah.
like, that rules.
As a whole, I'm basically, the music is good enough that I am tuning out the lyrics until a good line comes along, or maybe a particularly good or particularly terrible line comes along, and then I'm like, all right, well, I'll pay attention to that for just a second. But most of the time, it's almost another instrument, you know.
I would pretty much agree, but is it enough to call it a must listen? Yes, we've showered praise upon it for 17 hours or however long this has been going on, but is it enough? Must you listen to it before you die? And I'm going to throw it first to Tom.
I mean, yeah, this is pretty easy, yes. Frankly, you probably have already listened to this, because if you've been in the vicinity of mass media anytime in the last 35, 40 years, you've heard all of these songs at some point. Yes, listen to it. It's good. It's 35 minutes long. The songs that are great are fantastic. The songs that are good are better than you think they would be. And the songs that are bad are still better than almost everything I've ever written. So fuck yeah, listen to it.
Hell yeah. Let's go next to rocker Conan Neutron.
I mean, absolutely. Like this is one of the great feel records. It's one of the great quote unquote new wave records. It's somehow a band that's ubiquitous and underrated at the same time. Astounding. How do they pull that off? And it's their first record. They should have called it the Cars' Greatest Hits. That would have been amazing. Everything about it rules. Yeah, man. I mean, like I said, huge influence on me in a way that like maybe I didn't quite articulate or realize. I listen to this record regularly. You know, that say of that what you will. And it has extended influence far beyond just its root genre as well, which I think goes a lot towards what the idea of what the 1001 list is supposed to be, right? It goes beyond just their niche. Also, salvation for dudes that have faces made for radio everywhere.
Indeed. Something to hope for. Let's send it over to Phil next.
Yeah, I mean, Conan, I think you nailed it when you called it ubiquitous and underrated. I think this is both culturally and aesthetically significant. This is definitely a vibe and, yeah, is like the backbone of a certain type of classic rock radio. This is definitely a yes, and it was fun to put together that this is really just a record.
Hell yeah. Well, my vote doesn't mean that much of anything, but it's an easy yes. Clearly, patience and restraint meet production and songwriting chops. This record honestly gives me hopes for liking more new wave music or more 80s pop. Maybe I do need to revisit it. And to play off of what Tom said, yeah, you do know these songs, but I got more out of it with a deep listen. And by revisiting it than I really could have hoped for. I knew that it was going to be pretty good, but it exceeded my expectations. So I absolutely think you should listen to this. It's an easy and fun listen. These guys are great at what they do. Cool. Well, cars, baby, remaining cars, new cars, old cars,
We got them all.
decrepit cars.
Used cars, new cars. We got them all, kid. What do you need?
You're on the list. Okay, we got a few things left to do before we call it an evening tonight. But first, I just want to say a warm thank you to Conan Neutron for coming back on the show. Conan, plug your stuff, man. Tell us where people can find you.
Sure. So I am Conan Neutron, the Conan Neutron. At Conan Neutron on most things. My band is called Conan Neutron, The Secret Friends, on tour again for like the fifth time this year. You can find our tour dates, neutronfriends.com. Neutronfriends.bandcamp.com is probably the best place to directly support us. You can buy records, t-shirts, CDs, all the things you think you could get from a band. Conan Neutron, The Secret Friends. You know, if you like the Cars, there's a decent chance you might like Conan Neutron, The Secret Friends. That's, like I said, huge influence, maybe more so than I realized. I do a show called Protonic Reversal, Conan Neutron's Protonic Reversal, that airs weekly, 8 Eastern, 7 Central, 6 Mountain, 5 Pacific. Stream live, podcasted later, always free. No ads, no sponsors, no kidding. $1 a month at patreon.com/Protonic Reversal for advance access. Lots of cool stuff coming up on there. I've had a surprising amount of people on my show that you've covered on this show to the point that I now no longer will ever come on for an episode. Someone that I've had on.
Yeah.
It's just it's a bad idea, I think, really. But I think if you find some value in this, there certainly will be value for some of your listeners for that show.
Hell yeah. Listeners, support this guy. Support people who are out there working their ass off, both to podcast, to have these in-depth interviews with all these amazing musicians, and out on the road in a van, in a stinky van, and putting on a fucking great live show, if I do say so myself.
Rob's seen it.
Yeah. High octane rock and roll, people.
We're not dicking around here. What do you think's happening? We're not dicking around. We're gonna keep hitting it hard for Way of the Neutron. It's my favorite record that I have ever done at any band ever, let alone this band, which is it's our 4th record, he said confidently. Yeah, I think so. And yeah, it's great to hear from folks. We take of this what you will. I have now gotten to the point that people are like, oh yeah, you were on 1001 Album Complaints too. It's like, oh yeah.
Awesome. Here we are, baby. We've arrived. We're at Conan's level now.
Hey, don't get ahead of yourself.
Oh, weird. Yeah.
all right.
That's bizarre. Great.
No, but it's great. It's like, and I
I
said it in the context of the show, but it's been great seeing the show grow and develop its own voice and audience. And you know, that's what I always say whenever, Rob, when I gave you advice about this very show, I was like, find what it is that makes the show special and lean into it and just keep doing that. And you have.
No, you've always been super generous with your time and everything else, Conan, with us. And yes, I came to you with advice. I remember because you've been podcasting for so damn long that when we were first starting this show,
so long,
or you know, maybe after we'd had a year or so under our belt, when I feel like I kind of was starting to understand, I remember talking to you about strategy and the nuance, and you were very, very helpful and generous. So thank you for that.
I'm not sure if any of it helped, but I definitely will be glad to give it good advice for it. Yeah, exactly.
Well, here we are, baby, on top of the world. So I guess it worked.
It's a cool show. I love all the spin-off stuff you're doing, like your extended universe that you made. You know, it's great, man. It's a lovely thing. I'm glad to pop in now and again to talk about records with you guys. It's a blast. I like it.
Well, thanks again, Conan. We're excited to have you back again soon.
You got so many holes in your schedule, Conan. Just trying to find time.
Cool. Next up, we're going to dip our hands in the old mailbag and see what all you have been sending us. And I will tell you, we got a missive from quite far away today. A fella called Hein, writing from South Africa, says, "Hi guys. Kudos on the thoroughly enjoyable podcast. Great idea as well. The subject matter will provide longevity all the way up until August of 2040. Yes, I did the math for you. They say that the music that tickles your ear as a 13-year-old is the music you listen to for the rest of your life, and that's certainly the case with me. The older I get, and you might agree, the harder it gets to start a journey of undiscovered music. But because of your show, I'm taking this journey with you, and yes, I am discovering many gems. So thank you. I wanted to say and ask your opinion. I've always appreciated bands and artists that go the extra mile in presenting their albums as a package to consume with both ears and eyes. Sitting with a vinyl or a CD cover in hand, reading liner notes while listening, just staring at the art. I'm sure all of you have had similar experiences. So I'm curious what you all would say is or one of the best total package albums with great cover art. Would love to hear your thoughts. Boosh.
Conan Neutron, The Secret Friends, Way of the Neutron. Available neutronfriends.bandcamp.com.
Yes.
That's a great question. I remember back in the day, Pink Floyd put out Pulse
Oh, yeah.
on CD, and it had a pulsing light. There was like a little battery in it. So like the CD case itself had a little red light on the back end that would pulse. I always thought that was fucking cool. I was like, you had to spend a lot of extra money on the packaging to make that happen. And it was expensive as shit to buy it. And not that great of an album, but it was fucking amazing in terms of
I was going to say,
actual
yeah, because
packaging.
one of my first experiences with the magic of packaging was Alice Cooper's School's Out LP, which itself turns into a little school desk, which I thought was just really freaking cool at the time. I mean, the album's okay. I wouldn't say it's a slam dunk, but it's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. Think about like the first Devo record that Are We Not Men, We Are Devo with mutated Chichi Rodriguez with the golf ball. You're like, what the hell am I looking at? What is this?
Indeed. Okay, we got one more here. This is Bradley, Florida high school teacher who came on our show to defend beloved Lloyd Cole He writes in, "Hey boys, so I had to comment on Marquee Moon, the record and the episode. I have to admit that Marquee Moon was a shameful hole in my musical canon until I lived it with you guys before the episode."
You got to listen to it for the first time, like recently? Oh, fucking
First time.
Awesome for you, man.
Correct. And he says it's almost completely changed my understanding of where most of my favorite music came from. I mean, is there even an early indie or college rock band that didn't take major inspiration from this record? So thank you for the long overdue eye-opener.
Can I tell you, I listened to that episode and I loved it, but I was nervous. I was like, Christ, what are these guys going to think of this?
How could we possibly say anything negative about Delaware's favorite sons?
I didn't realize the Delaware connection.
Oh, that shit's so great. Yeah, but I
It might be a top 20 record of all time, at least a top 50. Right.
I understand your point there. You're like, shit, am I just going to listen to these guys pointlessly rip this for 90 minutes? Yeah.
My love for this record has not even been dissuaded by the fact that Richard Lloyd was a dick to me personally. Dude, he is a freak. He is a genius, like on the nth universe of the plane of existence level guitar player, but he is a freak as a human being, and will call him out for that. But no, I thought that was a great episode, and like not just
that sounds on brand from what I remember in the episode, though.
You should have sicked Steve Albini on him, Connor.
But I would love to have seen that. But how can you get mad at television? There is so much antecedent to Marquee Moon that isn't all of the things that are the good side of indie rock, and does it get noodly? Yeah, man, sure does. But it never gets noodly in the way that some bands that shall be named.
All of us have seen Fish like 20 times. We fucking love Noodly.
I wasn't going to name them, but yeah.
Conan, it's interesting you mention it too, because I think we were almost universally praising Marquee Moon. I consider it one of my all-time favorites as well. I'm glad you took that from the episode, but I tell you what, I have heard a few comments, including our listener right here, who picked up on our one complaint, specifically what Tom said about the choruses being bad. He says, "The choruses don't suck, they're just weird. While acknowledging that suckage is in the eye of the beholder, those strange choruses open the door to further experimentation with the unexpected chorus, and they're therefore awesome." This was Tom's problem with the record. I have no problem with the choruses or the unconventional song structures. I just want to say that we've actually gotten several comments about exactly that. Like, fuck you don't like the chorus. So anyway, Tom, direct your mail to Tom.
Can I tell you, in the classic "Excuse Me While I Kiss the Sky" school of philosophy, I thought elevation, I thought they were saying television.
Yeah, totally.
For years until I finally looked at the goddamn record and I was like, oh, it's called elevation. My bad.
Well, we love when you write in. Of course, if you haven't heard that Marquee Moon episode from maybe about 2 months ago now, go listen to that. Check that out. We all enjoyed it. I think we had fun talking about it. So go listen and decide for yourself. But we love hearing everything you have to say to us, what we got right, what we got wrong. Send it over to 1001albumcomplaints@gmail.com. And we have one more thing to do tonight before we wrap things up, which is to get our homework for next week. I'm going to throw it over to Tom with the Albinator.
Thank you, Rob. I have the Albinator here. It has been attempting to have sex with whatever synthesizer was on the Cars album this entire episode, and I'm going to pull it over here and see if I can get it to calm down and spit us out another album. So, without any further ado, drum roll please, we will be listening to... just another straight ahead, down the middle pop album. This is Nighthawks at the Diner by Tom Waits.
Really?
I'm sure it's going to be just universally beloved, and everyone's going to be like, oh, I know so many of the songs on this album. I know like 8 of these songs.
So many hits. Hard to pick.
Have you ever done a Tom Waits record on this show?
We have not.
This is... So it's interesting that you picked this one because there's...
Well, we didn't pick it, Conan. The Albinator picked it. Obviously.
Excuse me. The Albinator picked it. Pardon me. We got the error. Mistakes have been made. The appropriate parties have been fired. The people who fired those appropriate parties have also been fired. Good record in my estimation. I will not be voting on that show, of course. But it's different than you might think of, which is the kind of like Tom Waits, right?
We're going to clip that for sure.
And I say that as a fan, by the way, one of my favorite artists. I'm really interested in what you guys got to say about that because it's an interesting record.
I do love how he manages to put like intros at the beginning of 3 of the sides of this 4-sided album. His intro. Like, come on, man.
He's got things to say.
You're going to be like, is this the same guy? Like he sounds like a human, not like a Muppet.
I will concede that I have heard this one before, but I'm excited to get back into it. And I hope everyone joins us on that journey and tunes in next week for Tom Waits' Nighthawks at the Diner.
Literally the only celebrity I've ever met in my entire life was Tom Waits.
And if you want to hear that story, you'll have to tune in next week. For everyone here at 1001 Album Complaints, I have been Rob.
I've been Tom.
I've been Phil.
And I'm Rocker Conan Neutron.
A boosh.
If Fun Loving Criminals is on the fucking list and Wire isn't, I'm going to fucking find this guy and break his hands.